Right? I mean, you can be a professional esports player and, beyond like a tier 2, tier 3 org, which is not maybe paying you the most. And obviously, if you're not winning and being paid a lot, you're not a big streamer, then you're not really making a lot of money. So I'm assuming he's just basically talking about, the top 1%, you're winning every tournament, you're on a top organization, you're making a shitload of money, you're successful. He talks about how, gaming can potentially not really get you anywhere, right? You're putting a lot of time into it and you're just mindlessly playing video games. I just don't think what Joe doesn't really understand in the full context of what the gaming community is and how many different avenues you can be successful in gaming. I mean, there's streaming, just content creation, YouTube, being a professional player, being a freaking coach.
How many different avenues there are where you can be successful in gaming is kind of a moot point after you just finished explaining how you could be in a tier 3 or 2 org and not get paid a lot unless you're consistently winning or unless you have a side gig like streaming at the highest levels of gaming in the primary avenue. Content creation and YouTube are essentially the same thing. And how do you just go pro? It seems like it's pretty easy to say there are plenty of avenues and opportunities for success in gaming when you're literally the most successful gamer in the world. When we ask ourselves whether or not gaming is worthwhile, I think what we should really be asking ourselves is whether or not gaming is fulfilling.
There's a lot of people that don't have any, there's no one, they're not modeling their life after someone that they see that they admire. Someone that's successful, someone that is doing something that they enjoy and love. Sometimes kids have to see that. Right. And if their parents are living a bullshit life and their neighbors live in a bullshit life and most of their family lives a bullshit life, they just fucking lay around,
Yeah.
And then they seek refuge in drugs or video games or something that stimulates them. And video games are a real problem. They're a real problem. You know why? Because they're fucking fun.
Addictive.
And
I feel like the only people who are really upset by Joe Rogan's comments are the people who buy wholeheartedly into the marketing campaigns employed by the various companies who have their hands in gaming as an industry, namely young people. The gaming industry isn't as big as I think a lot of people credit it for, and peddling this pro gamer image seems to be doing more harm than good in the general scope of things.
I have children, and it's a big battle in the house.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be encouraging young people to sit around the house for 4 to 8 hours at a time, making virtual friends and living virtual lives. I think we should be encouraging young people to be a productive member of their actual communities, encouraging them to get out of the house. Unless you're someone like Shroud, your mom and dad are going to pay for your setup and fly you around the world, you can afford not to have a job, your family and friends are going to support you, you have a real passion and opportunity, it probably wouldn't be the best bet for a career path, and you should probably consider something more practical. I spent 25 years playing video games, and it hasn't earned me a dime. But I also never started out or continued playing video games because I thought it would eventually make me money either. Who does that? Though I do feel like it's easier now more than ever to find a career in gaming, I think the guarantee that hard work and dedication will bring you financial success is still far-fetched, few, and far between. It seems to me that there is no clear and practical path to follow in gaming like there is in sports, other than essentially floundering around and soliciting your goods for attention, whatever that might be.
I mean, they've got a good point. So I think the issue is like, what's the solution? So I was expecting them to say things that I would take issue with. Do jujitsu for 3 years or play video games for 3 years, and then like one is more valuable than the other. I don't think anyone's disputing that. Like, that's the next question that needs to be asked, right? How do you do one instead of the other? That's what we struggle with as a community. It's like, we know what we need to do. Like, if I could give you guys a switch, and I'd say, like, flip this switch, and instead of playing video games for the next 3 years, you're going to practice jujitsu for the next 3 years. Like, you guys would flip the switch, most of you, I imagine. I mean, the whole problem with our community is that we know what we need to do, and we don't know how to do it. That's what we're here to address. I mean, some people are saying no. I mean, people are saying no and people saying no. Yes. Most people are saying no, it looks like.
Clearly the problem isn't how do we make the switch. People just don't want to switch. I think the real problem is a rapidly growing industry with a little too much power and influence over a population complacent enough to allow it. Gaming isn't inherently good or bad, but I think it's certainly something that should be practiced in moderation for most people. and ultimately believe that there are much better things we could be doing with our time. Young people especially.
I think that it's more likely for someone to have a long career, right? Like I'd say like a 15, 20-year career, you know, being good and like, you know, working in the martial arts industry than video games, like especially playing them, right? Not making them, playing them. I think that like people, they get into like this idea that like, well, because, you know, like there's like Ninja or, you know, some other fucking streamer or some professional player, Faker or whatever, you know, that they're going to play and be that good and like get to that position. I think that's on the same level of delusion as people that are like, I'm going to play basketball and get into the NBA. I think that's unrealistic.